The cargo ship drifted through space like a dead leaf on water. Its engines were silent. Its hull bore fresh scorch marks from weapons fire. Inside the cockpit, Kang Dae-hyun sat with his hands raised above his head. 3 Vrelian soldiers surrounded him, their insect-like faces impossible to read behind their helmets. "Please," Dae-hyun said quietly. "I didn't know this was restricted space. My navigation system failed 2 days ago. I was just trying to find my way to the nearest trade station." The lead Vrelian, whose armor bore the marks of a commander, tilted his head. His translator crackled to life. "You trespass in Imperial territory. This is a crime punishable by death." Dae-hyun's hands trembled slightly. His face showed fear, genuine and complete. "I understand. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Please, I have a family back on Earth, a sister. She depends on me." The commander studied him for a long moment. Humans were still new to the galaxy. Barely 100 years since first contact. They were weak creatures, soft-skinned and fragile. This one looked particularly harmless. His eyes were gentle, almost kind. His voice carried no threat, only pleading. "Search him," the commander ordered. "Check his records." 2 soldiers grabbed Dae-hyun and pulled him from his seat. They scanned his body for weapons, finding nothing. They accessed his ship's computer and pulled up his identification documents. The data streamed across their devices. Kang Dae-hyun, one soldier read aloud. Age 28. Occupation cargo hauler. No military service. No criminal record. Licensed for civilian transport only. The soldier looked up. "He's nothing, Commander Takavir. Just a merchant who got lost." Takavir stepped closer to Dae-hyun. The human was small compared to the 8-foot-tall Vrelian. He had to look down to meet those gentle eyes. "You really are just a simple cargo pilot." "Yes, sir," Dae-hyun said. "I haul medical supplies between colonies. Nothing illegal. Nothing dangerous. Just medicine and food." Takavir made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. "Pathetic. Your species sends children into space." The other soldiers joined in the mocking sounds. One of them shoved Dae-hyun hard, sending him stumbling against the wall. He didn't fight back. He simply steadied himself and lowered his eyes. "What should we do with him, Commander?" a soldier asked. "Execute him here?" Takavir considered this. Execution would be standard procedure. But something occurred to him, an idea that brought satisfaction. The Crimson Pits were opening tomorrow. The arena fights were the greatest entertainment in the Vrelian Empire. Warriors from across the galaxy came to prove their strength. It had been too long since they'd thrown a human into the ring. "No," Takavir said slowly. "We'll take him to the pits." The soldiers made excited clicking sounds. Dae-hyun's face went pale. "The pits? What is that?" "Combat arena," Takavir explained, enjoying the fear in the human's eyes. "You'll fight for your life. If you win enough battles, you earn your freedom." "But I'm not a fighter," Dae-hyun protested. "I don't know how to fight. I've never hurt anyone in my life." "Then you'll die quickly," Takavir said with satisfaction. "Your death will remind your species of their place in this galaxy. You are weak. We are strong. This is the natural order." They dragged Dae-hyun from his ship. The cargo bay doors opened, revealing the massive Vrelian warship waiting outside. Dae-hyun struggled weakly, his protests falling on deaf ears. They bound his hands with energy restraints and pulled him through the connecting tunnel. The warship was enormous, filled with soldiers and warriors. Everywhere Dae-hyun looked, he saw creatures built for war. Vrelians with their armored exoskeletons, brutish creatures with forearms and tusks, sleek, predatory beings that moved like shadows. They all stopped to stare at the human prisoner. Some laughed. Others made comments in languages Dae-hyun didn't understand. But the meaning was clear enough. They thought he was nothing. Prey. Weak. They threw him into a holding cell deep in the ship's belly. The cell was small, barely 10 feet square, with metal walls and a single bench. A force field hummed across the entrance, trapping him inside. Dae-hyun sat on the bench and lowered his head into his hands. He stayed like that for a long time, perfectly still. Eventually, a guard approached with a container of water and some kind of nutrient paste. "Thank you," Dae-hyun said softly as the guard passed the food through a slot in the force field. "I appreciate your kindness." The guard, a young Vrelian, seemed surprised by the politeness. "You're going to die tomorrow, human. You know that?" "I understand," Dae-hyun replied. "But I'm still grateful for the food." "May I ask your name?" The guard hesitated, then said, "Krelvik." "Thank you, Krelvik. You didn't have to give me water. That was kind of you. The guard made an uncomfortable clicking sound and walked away quickly. Other guards had gathered nearby, watching the exchange. They laughed at Krelvik for showing mercy to someone so pathetic. Hours passed. The ship traveled through hyperspace toward the arena world. Taehyun sat quietly in his cell, eating slowly, drinking water in small sips. He didn't pace. He didn't cry out. He simply existed, calm and still. Commander Takvir came to observe him once. He stood outside the cell for 10 minutes watching the human do nothing. Taehyun noticed him but didn't speak. He just met the commander's gaze with those gentle eyes and nodded respectfully. "You're not even gonna beg?" Takvir asked. "Would it change anything?" Taehyun asked back. "No." "Then I won't waste your time or mine." Takvir found this answer strange, but ultimately meaningless. The human had accepted his fate. Good. That would make his death less troublesome. "We arrive in 6 hours. Try to sleep. You'll want your strength for the arena." "Thank you for the advice," Taehyun said. After Takvir left, Taehyun lay down on the bench. He closed his eyes and controlled his breathing, slow and steady. To anyone watching, he appeared to be sleeping peacefully despite facing death in the morning. But if someone had looked very closely at his face in that moment, they might have seen something. Just a flicker. A brief shadow that passed across those gentle eyes, something cold and calculating there for just a heartbeat before vanishing completely. When the ship finally emerged from hyperspace, alarms sounded throughout the vessel. Taehyun opened his eyes slowly as if waking from a pleasant dream. Guards came to his cell and deactivated the force field. "Time to go, human," one said. "The pits await." They pulled him to his feet and began leading him through the corridors. Other prisoners were being collected too. Warriors from various species who had committed crimes or been captured in battle. They all looked dangerous, muscled, and scarred, with eyes that promised violence. And then there was Taehyun, walking quietly between his guards, looking like a frightened civilian who had wandered into the wrong place. The other prisoners laughed when they saw him. Fresh meat. He'd be dead within minutes of entering the arena. The ship docked at a massive station orbiting a red planet. Through the windows, Taehyun could see the arena itself, a colossal structure that could hold millions of spectators. Lights blazed from it like a small sun. They loaded all the prisoners onto a transport shuttle. Taehyun found himself sitting next to a massive creature covered in spikes and armor plates. It looked at him and growled something in a language the translator rendered as, "You smell like fear, little one." Taehyun turned to face the creature. For just a moment his expression didn't change, but something in his eyes shifted. The creature suddenly went quiet and turned away, unsettled by something it couldn't quite identify. The shuttle descended toward the arena. Through the windows, Taehyun could see crowds gathering, thousands upon thousands of aliens come to watch the blood sport. Banners flew. Lights flashed. The roar of the crowd could be heard even through the shuttle's thick hull. Takvir's voice came through the speakers. "Welcome to the Crimson Pits, prisoners. Here you'll fight for your survival. Win and you might see another day. Lose and you die for the entertainment of the collective. May the strongest survive." The shuttle landed. The doors opened. Guards herded the prisoners out onto a staging platform beneath the arena. The sound of the crowd above was deafening, a wall of noise that shook the very ground. Taehyun took a deep breath and stepped forward into the darkness below the arena. His hands were steady now. His face remained calm, almost peaceful. The guards didn't notice. They were too busy laughing about how quickly the human would die. The holding cells beneath the arena were dark and smelled of blood. Taehyun sat on a cold stone floor with his back against the wall. Around him, other prisoners prepared for combat in their own ways. Some meditated. Others exercised, testing their muscles. A few simply stared at nothing, already dead inside. A female voice spoke from the cell next to his. "You're human, aren't you?" Taehyun turned his head. Through the bars separating the cells, he could see a woman in her 30s with tired eyes and bruised arms. She wore torn civilian clothing, not the armor or battle gear of a warrior. "Yes," he said. "My name is Kang Taehyun, Lee Hyeri," she replied. "I'm a xenobiologist." Was a xenobiologist. "I was studying plant samples on Vrelian territory when they arrested me." Said I was a spy. "Were you?" She laughed bitterly. "I was looking at flowers. Does that make me a spy? They don't care. They just wanted more bodies for the arena." She studied him through the bars. You don't look like a fighter. I'm a cargo pilot, Daehyun said. I got lost. Then you'll die today, Hyeri said flatly. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. This is my 3rd week here. I've seen dozens of fighters come through. The weak ones don't last past their first match. Daehyun nodded slowly. How are you still alive after 3 weeks? Luck, she said. I'm a scientist. I observe, I analyze, I find patterns. I've learned to survive by being smart, not strong. But it won't last forever. She paused. Do you have family back home? A sister, Daehyun said. She thinks I'm on a routine supply run. She doesn't know I'm here. I'm sorry, Hyeri said again. Before Daehyun could respond, the cell door opened with a grinding sound. 2 guards stood in the entrance. Kang Daehyun, you fight first today. Stand up. He stood slowly, his movements careful and non-threatening. They put restraints on his wrists and led him through a tunnel that sloped upward. The sound of the crowd grew louder with each step. Hyeri watched him go, her face sad. She didn't expect to see him alive again. The tunnel opened into blinding light. Daehyun stepped out onto sand that was stained dark in places from old blood. The arena was massive, surrounded by seats that rose up and up, filled with thousands of alien spectators. They roared when they saw him, a mix of excitement and mockery. A voice boomed through speakers, speaking in the common trade language. Our first match of the day features a special treat. A human trespasser who claims to be nothing but a lost merchant. Let's see how long this soft creature survives. The crowd laughed and jeered. Daehyun stood in the center of the arena, turning slowly to take in his surroundings. Sand covered most of the floor, but stone pillars rose in places and pieces of broken weapons littered the ground. He noted each detail, his gentle eyes moving methodically across the space. A gate on the opposite side of the arena opened. Something huge stepped out. The creature stood 9 feet tall, covered in green scales and corded muscle. Its head was reptilian, with rows of sharp teeth and eyes that gleamed with intelligence and cruelty. It carried a massive sword that would have taken 3 humans to lift. The announcer's voice rang out again. Facing our human prisoner is Greltok, champion of the southern pits, victor of 47 matches. Let the battle begin. The crowd erupted in cheers. Greltok raised his sword and roared, a sound that echoed across the arena like thunder. He began walking toward Daehyun, picking up speed with each step. Daehyun didn't move. He stood perfectly still, watching the champion approach. His hands hung loose at his sides. His expression remained calm, almost peaceful. Greltok broke into a run, sand flying from his feet. He raised his sword high, preparing to split the human in half with one strike. The crowd held its breath, anticipating the kill. At the last possible moment Daehyun moved, he didn't run away. He stepped to the side just barely, his movement so fast it was almost invisible. Greltok's sword came down and struck empty air, the blade burying itself in the sand. The champion stumbled, thrown off balance by the miss. Daehyun was already behind him. The human grabbed a piece of broken metal from the sand, a shard from some previous weapon. He drove it into the back of Greltok's knee, into the soft tissue between scales. The champion roared in pain and spun around, swinging his sword in a wide arc. But Daehyun was already gone, rolling away across the sand. He came up near one of the stone pillars and grabbed a length of chain that hung there, probably a leftover from some previous match. Greltok charged again, limping slightly, but still dangerous. His sword came down in a vertical slash. Daehyun moved behind the pillar and the blade struck stone, sending chips flying. Before Greltok could pull the weapon free, Daehyun wrapped the chain around the champion's neck from behind. The crowd's cheering changed tone. This wasn't supposed to happen. The human was supposed to die quickly. Greltok thrashed and roared, trying to reach back and grab his opponent. But Daehyun had positioned himself perfectly, using the champion's own size against him. He pulled the chain tight, cutting off air. Greltok slammed backward into the pillar, trying to crush Daehyun against the stone. The human grunted as impact knocked the air from his lungs, but he didn't let go. He adjusted his grip and pulled harder. The champion dropped his sword and clawed at the chain. His movements became frantic, desperate. Daehyun's face showed no emotion, no satisfaction or anger. He simply held on, his grip steady and unbreakable. Greltok fell to his knees. His movements slowed. Finally, his arms dropped to his sides. He collapsed face first into the sand and didn't move again. Daehyun released the chain and stepped back. He stood over the fallen champion, his breathing steady and controlled. The arena had gone completely silent. 20,000 spectators stared in shock at what they'd just witnessed. Then someone in the crowd screamed and the noise returned like a wave. Some cheered. Others booed. Arguments broke out in the stands. The unexpected victory had upset betting pools and shattered expectations. In the command box high above the arena, Commander Takvir stood frozen, staring down at the human. His mandibles clicked together in confusion. "Play back the fight," he ordered his assistant. They watched the recording. Takvir studied every movement, every decision the human had made. The sidestep, the targeting of the weak point in Greltok's knee, the use of environment and improvised weapons, the perfect positioning during the choke. "It must be luck," the assistant said. "No training could prepare someone for that so quickly." "Yes," Takvir agreed slowly. "Luck." But something in his voice suggested doubt. Down in the arena, guards came to escort Daehyun back to the cells. He walked calmly, not celebrating his victory or showing any pride. When they passed Greltok's body, he paused and bowed his head slightly, a gesture of respect. The guards found this behavior strange but said nothing. They returned him to his cell and locked the door. Hyeri was waiting, pressed against the bars of her cell, her eyes wide with disbelief. "You're alive." "You actually won." Daehyun sat down on his stone floor and accepted a container of water from a guard. "Thank you," he said politely to the guard, then drank slowly. "How?" Hyeri asked. "How did you do that? You said you were just a cargo pilot." Daehyun set down the water and looked at her through the bars. His gentle eyes met hers. "I am just a cargo pilot, Dr. Lee, nothing more. That's not possible. What you did out there—" "I got lucky," he interrupted quietly. Greltok was overconfident. He expected easy prey. I used that against him. Hyeri stared at him for a long moment. She was a scientist, trained to observe and analyze, and everything she observed about this man told her he was lying. Not about being a cargo pilot, perhaps, but about what that meant. "Who are you, really?" she whispered. Daehyun smiled, a sad expression that didn't reach his eyes. "Someone who just wants to go home, Dr. Lee, that's all." He lay down on the cold floor and closed his eyes, dismissing further conversation. Hyeri watched him for a while, her mind racing with questions. But eventually she too settled down to rest. In his command center, Takvir was still studying the fight footage. He played it again and again, watching the human's movements. Something nagged at him, a feeling he couldn't quite identify. The human had moved with purpose. Every action had been precise, calculated. But the record said civilian. No military training. No combat experience. "Increase surveillance on the human prisoner," Takvir ordered. "I want reports on everything he does, everyone he talks to." "Yes, Commander," his assistant replied. "Do you believe he's dangerous?" Takvir's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "I believe we need more information. Schedule his next fight for 3 days from now. Let's see if his luck holds." Deep in his cell, Daehyun's eyes were closed, but he wasn't sleeping. He was thinking, calculating, planning. 3 days until the next fight. He would need to be careful. He couldn't show too much. Not yet, but they were watching him now. He could feel it. The game had begun, and the stakes were higher than anyone in this arena realized. Somewhere far away on Earth, alarms were starting to sound in very secret places. 2 weeks passed in the Crimson Pits. Daehyun fought 6 more times. Each opponent was more dangerous than the last. Each time he won. His third opponent was a creature called a Morphid, something that could change its body shape during combat. It stretched its arms into blades and whips, attacking from impossible angles. Daehyun blinded it with sand and broke its neck while it thrashed in confusion. His fourth opponent was cybernetically enhanced, half-machine with enhanced speed and strength. Daehyun used the arena's metal structures to conduct electricity, shorting out the creature's systems before finishing it with a piece of broken machinery. The fifth was a telepathic fighter from a species known for reading opponents' minds and predicting their moves. Daehyun moved in patterns that seemed random but weren't, creating mental noise that confused the telepath until he could get close enough to end the fight quickly. The sixth was a pack hunter, 3 smaller creatures that worked together with perfect coordination. Daehyun separated them using the arena's terrain, defeating them one by one before they could reform their strategy. The seventh was a beast from a death world, something that had evolved to survive in conditions that would kill most life forms. It felt no pain and could regenerate wounds. Daehyun discovered it couldn't regenerate if its head was removed from its body. After each fight, Daehyun returned to his cell. He never celebrated, never boasted. He accepted his water and food with quiet thanks, helped other prisoners with injuries when he could, and spent his free time teaching Dr. Lee Hyeri basic self-defense. "You need to stay on your feet," he told her during one lesson, showing her how to maintain balance. "If you go down, you die. Always think about your next 2 moves, not just the next one." Hyeri practiced the movements he taught her, simple but effective techniques. "You're a good teacher," she said. "Is that something cargo pilots learn?" Daehyun smiled that sad smile. "Just things I picked up over the years." "You're lying to me," she said, but without anger. "That's okay. Everyone here has secrets, but I want you to know that I'm grateful. Whatever you really are, you've helped me survive." "You've survived because you're smart, Dr. Lee," he replied. "I just gave you a few tools." The guards reported everything to Commander Takvir. The human's politeness, his calm demeanor, the way he helped other prisoners. It made no sense. Warriors celebrated their victories. They showed pride, anger, bloodlust. This one showed nothing but kindness outside the arena and cold efficiency inside it. "Pull his records again," Takvir ordered. "Go deeper. Contact Earth's databases if necessary." His assistant worked for hours but found nothing new. "The records are consistent, Commander. Kang Daehyun, cargo hauler, no military background. Unless Earth is hiding something." "Earth is always hiding something," Takvir muttered. The fights were being broadcast across the Vrelian Empire. Daehyun became known as the Silent Human because he never spoke during combat, never taunted his opponents or played to the crowd. He simply fought, won, and left. Betting houses lost fortunes as patterns failed to predict his victories. Warrior species felt humiliated that their champions fell to a supposed civilian. Arguments erupted in military circles about what this meant for the collective's view of humanity. On the 15th day, something changed. A message arrived at the arena from collective headquarters. Admiral Vorn himself, one of the highest-ranking military leaders in known space, demanded answers about the human prisoner. Takvir was summoned to a private communication chamber. Vorn's holographic image appeared before him, massive and imposing even as a projection. The admiral was from a species called the Kronar, warriors who had conquered 50 systems through strength alone. "Explain this human," Vorn demanded. 7 victories. Against champions. Against enhanced fighters. Against creatures bred for war. How? "I don't know, Admiral," Takvir admitted. "His records show no combat training." "Then his records are false," Vorn said. "No untrained being fights like this. I've watched the footage. Every move is precise. He wastes no energy, makes no unnecessary risks. This is not luck or natural talent. This is training. What do you want me to do? Dig deeper. Find the truth. And prepare stronger opponents. If this human is some kind of weapon Earth has created, I want to know before they deploy more of them." The communication ended. Takvir stood alone in the chamber, mandibles clicking rapidly. A thought had been growing in his mind, one he hadn't wanted to acknowledge. What if the human was dangerous? What if capturing him had been a mistake? He began a new investigation, this time bypassing official channels. He contacted information brokers, smugglers, anyone who might have access to Earth's hidden files. It would take time, but Takvir was patient. Meanwhile, on Earth, in a building that appeared on no official maps, Commander Park Ji-won sat in a dark room watching live footage of Daehyun's latest fight. Her face was pale. Her hands gripped the armrests of her chair so tightly her knuckles were white. "How long has this been broadcasting?" she asked her aide, a young man named Kim Min-ho. 2 weeks, Commander. It's on the Collective's public networks. Half the galaxy has probably seen it by now." "Dear God," Ji-won whispered. "Do the Council know?" "Not yet. The broadcasts are in alien languages. Our translation algorithms only flagged it this morning when someone mentioned human fighter in a context that seemed unusual." Ji-won stood up abruptly. "Get me everything on Project Silence, everything. I don't care how classified it is. I don't care who I have to wake up. I want those files in 1 hour. Commander, Project Silence was discontinued." "Wait, it was never discontinued," Ji-won shouted. The aide flinched. She forced herself to calm down and continued in a quieter voice. "We just stopped talking about it. Now go. 1 hour." When Minho left, Ji-won turned back to the screen. She watched Daehyun move through the arena, his actions so familiar they made her heart ache. She had trained with him once years ago before the project went dark, before they told everyone he was dead. "What are you doing, Daehyun?" she whispered to the screen. "Why are you showing them?" Back at the arena, Daehyun's 8th fight was announced. This time they paired him against twin Vrelian champions, brothers who had fought together for 20 years and never lost when working as a team. The crowd was enormous. Word had spread about the silent human. Beings came from across the sector to witness this strange phenomenon. The betting was intense, with odds favoring the twins 3-1. Daehyun walked into the arena to a mix of cheers and angry jeers. Some had begun to respect him. Others wanted to see him finally fall. He ignored all of it, his gentle eyes scanning the arena floor, noting changes in the terrain since his last fight. The twins entered from the opposite gate. They were identical massive Vrelian warriors with enhanced armor and weapons. They moved in perfect synchronization, a deadly mirror image. The announcer's voice boomed. The silent human faces his greatest challenge yet. Can he survive against the legendary twin champions? Let the battle begin. The twins didn't charge. They approached carefully, spreading out to flank Daehyun from both sides. They'd watched his previous fights. They wouldn't make the same mistakes as the others. Daehyun stood still, watching them both. The crowd grew quiet, sensing something different about this fight. This wouldn't be quick. The twins attacked simultaneously from opposite directions. Daehyun moved toward one, seeming to commit to that direction. The twin on that side raised his weapon to block. At the last instant, Daehyun dropped and rolled backward, causing both twins to nearly collide with each other. They recovered quickly and separated again. This time they attacked with coordination, one high and one low, cutting off escape routes. Daehyun was forced to engage, blocking the high attack and taking a glancing blow from the low one. The crowd roared as he stumbled. The twins pressed their advantage. They'd drawn first blood. They moved like a single organism, their attacks flowing together. Daehyun was driven back toward the arena wall, his options narrowing. He feinted left, then dove right, rolling under a sword strike and coming up with a handful of sand. He threw it in one twin's face, blinding him temporarily. The other twin moved to protect his brother, putting himself between Daehyun and his blinded sibling. This was the opening Daehyun needed. He didn't try to press the attack. Instead, he ran toward one of the stone pillars. The twins followed, their formation restored as the blinded one cleared his eyes. What happened next seemed impossible to those watching. Daehyun ran up the pillar, using momentum and precise foot placement to gain height. At the apex of his run, he pushed off backward, flipping in the air. The twins looked up, weapons raised, but he wasn't targeting them. He grabbed a metal beam that crossed overhead, part of the arena's ancient structure. With his momentum, he swung his body and kicked, both feet hitting the beam at its weakest point. The old metal, corroded by years of blood and weather, snapped. The beam fell. One end struck the ground near the twins. The other end remained attached, creating a sloped ramp of metal. Daehyun dropped from above, landing in a crouch. Before the twins could react to the changing terrain, he sprinted up the fallen beam, gaining the high ground. From that position, he jumped down on the nearest twin, driving the point of a broken weapon shard into the gap where neck met armor. The first twin fell. Commander Takvir worked through the night. His information brokers had finally delivered something useful, a fragment of data from Earth's encrypted networks. It wasn't much, just a reference number and a project name, but it was enough to start pulling threads. Project Silence. The words appeared on his screen in human characters. Everything else about the file was corrupted or locked behind encryption he couldn't break. But the project name alone told him this was military, and the level of security around it suggested something Earth desperately wanted to hide. He sent queries to every contact he had in human space. Most responses came back negative. No one had heard of Project Silence. But one informant, a smuggler who dealt in classified information, sent a different message. Stop looking. If Earth finds out you're searching for this, they'll consider it an act of war. That response told Takvir everything he needed to know. The human in his arena was connected to something dangerous, something Earth had buried deep. He intensified his efforts. His technical team worked to break through Earth's security systems, using methods that were definitely illegal by collective law. After 3 days of constant work, they found a crack, a weakness in an old backup server that still held fragments of files from 15 years ago. What they recovered was incomplete, damaged by time and security protocols. But it was enough. Takvir read the documents with growing horror. Project Silence had been Earth's Black Operations Program, created in response to humanity's first conflicts with aggressive alien species. The goal was simple and terrifying: create the perfect soldier. The program took volunteers from military special forces and put them through procedures that broke most candidates mentally or physically. Out of 200 participants, 197 either died or went insane during the process. 2 completed the program, but couldn't function in normal society afterward. They lived in secure facilities, their minds shattered by what had been done to them. 1 succeeded completely. The files didn't name him, but they described what he became. Enhanced reflexes that bordered on precognition, pain tolerance that allowed him to function with injuries that would incapacitate normal humans, tactical analysis capabilities that let him solve combat situations faster than computers, psychological conditioning that removed hesitation while preserving morality and judgment. And he was dangerous, so dangerous that Earth's own government feared him. He'd completed 12 missions, all classified. Every mission had been successful. Every target eliminated. Every objective achieved. He never failed, but the cost was visible in the psychological reports. The conditioning had removed his ability to hesitate in combat, but it hadn't removed his capacity to feel. He knew what he was. He knew what he'd become, and it haunted him. The final report in the fragmentary files was stamped with multiple security clearances. It detailed the program's termination. Project Silence was deemed too dangerous to continue. The 2 mentally broken subjects were kept in comfortable facilities, and the 1 successful candidate was given a choice: death or disappearance. He chose disappearance. Earth faked his death, gave him a new identity, and let him try to live a normal life. The report expressed doubt he would succeed, but acknowledged they owed him that chance after what they'd made him do. The file ended there, corrupted beyond repair. But Takavir didn't need more. He understood now. The gentle cargo pilot who had stumbled into Vrelian space was Earth's greatest weapon, trying to live a peaceful life, and they'd thrown him into an arena and forced him to fight. "Commander," his assistant said, breaking Takavir's horrified silence. "Admiral Vorn is calling. He demands an update." Takavir took the call in his private chamber. Vorn's hologram appeared, as imposing as ever. "You have news?" "Yes, Admiral. The human is a weapon. A biological weapon created by Earth's military through a program called Project Silence. The details are sparse, but he's been extensively modified and trained. He's not a civilian. He never was." Vorn's expression, difficult to read on an alien face, somehow conveyed satisfaction. "Good, this confirms my suspicions. Earth has been hiding military assets. The Collective Council needs to know about this. Admiral, there's more. The program was discontinued. He was given a civilian identity and released. Earth itself fears him. They never intended for him to fight again. Yet he does," Vorn said. "And he does it well. This proves Earth is more dangerous than we thought. If they can create 1 such weapon, they can create more." "The files suggest he was the only success." "Files lie," Vorn interrupted. "Governments hide their true capabilities. No, this human has demonstrated that Earth can produce warriors that rival our best. That makes them a threat." He paused, thinking. "I will challenge him myself." Takvir's mandibles clicked in surprise. "Admiral, you don't need to—" "I do. The Collective needs to see that even Earth's best cannot defeat our commanders. I will fight him in the grand arena, broadcast across all our worlds. When I defeat him, it will crush any thoughts of human military superiority." "And if you don't defeat him?" Vorn's laugh was like grinding metal. "I've fought for 300 years, Commander. I've killed opponents from 60 different species. I've been enhanced with the best technology our empire can provide. I've trained in 50 martial systems. 1 human, no matter how modified, cannot defeat me." The call ended. Takvir stood alone, feeling something he recognized as dread. Vorn was powerful, experienced, deadly, but he'd also never faced anything like Kang Daehyun. The Admiral's confidence might be his undoing. Deep in the cells below the arena, Daehyun sat with Yeri. She'd just returned from her own fight, a close victory that left her with a cut along her arm. He cleaned and bandaged the wound with supplies he'd politely requested from the guards. "You've never asked me to teach you how to kill," Daehyun said quietly as he worked. Only how to survive. Why? Because I'm not a killer, Harry replied. I'm a scientist. Even here, even in this place, I don't want to become something I'm not. That's wise. He finished the bandage. There. It should heal cleanly if you keep it clean. Thank you. She watched him for a moment. They're going to keep making you fight until you lose, aren't they? Probably. Does that scare you? Daehyun smiled that sad smile. I'm scared every time I walk into that arena, Dr. Lee. Fear is useful. It keeps you sharp. You hide it well. Practice. A guard approached their cells. Kang Daehyun, you have a visitor. This was unusual. Prisoners didn't receive visitors. Daehyun stood and followed the guard through corridors he hadn't seen before, deeper into the complex. They arrived at a private viewing room with a communication screen. The screen activated, showing a woman in a military uniform. Daehyun recognized her immediately, though 15 years had aged her. Commander Ji-won. Hello, Daehyun, Park Ji-won said. Her voice was tight with emotion. We thought you were dead. The last sighting we had of you was 3 years ago, hauling supplies to a mining colony. Then nothing. I preferred it that way. I know. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what they did to you. I'm sorry for what we made you become. She paused. The Terran Defense Council has seen your fights. They know who you are now, and they're disavowing any knowledge of you. Officially, you don't exist. You never existed. Project Silence never existed. Daehyun nodded slowly. I understand. That's what we agreed to. But unofficially, Ji-won continued, her voice dropping. Earth is watching. Millions of humans are watching these broadcasts now. You've become something unexpected, Daehyun. A symbol. Proof that humanity can stand against the collective's warriors. I don't want to be a symbol. I just want to go home. I know, but Admiral Vorn has challenged you to single combat in the Grand Arena. It will be broadcast across the entire collective. If you win, they'll grant you freedom. You can come home. And if I lose, then you die and Earth loses a hero it never acknowledged. Ji-won leaned closer to the screen. But Daehyun, you need to understand something. This fight isn't just about you anymore. Every human watching will see this. Every alien species will see this. What you do in that arena will change how the galaxy sees humanity. Daehyun was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, You want me to make a statement? I want you to survive. But yes, if you can show them that humans aren't weak, that we're not prey to be hunted or enslaved, it might prevent future conflicts. It might save lives, by ending one. Vorn is a brutal conqueror who has killed millions across dozens of campaigns. His death would not be mourned by those he's oppressed. Daehyun looked away from the screen. I stopped being a killer, Commander. I spent 15 years trying to wash the blood off my hands. I know. And I hate that we're asking this of you. But they're forcing your hand by putting you in this arena. You can't choose not to fight. You can only choose how you fight. The communication ended shortly after. Daehyun was returned to his cell. Here he was waiting, watching him with concerned eyes. Bad news? She asked. Just complications, he replied. He sat down on the floor and closed his eyes. Dr. Lee, can I ask you something? Of course. If you could save lives by taking one life, would you? Hieri considered this carefully. It depends on whose life I was taking and how many I was saving. Why do you ask? Because I think I'm about to stop being a cargo pilot again, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. The Grand Arena was different from the regular fighting pits. It was older, larger, and held special significance in Vrelian culture. Only the most important matches took place here. The arena could hold 3 million spectators and every seat was filled. But the audience wasn't limited to those physically present. The fight was being broadcast across every collective world, translated into hundreds of languages. 50 million beings watched. Ships stopped their journeys to tune in. Soldiers in barracks gathered around screens. This had become more than entertainment. It was a statement about power, about the order of things in the galaxy. On Earth, the broadcast was playing in secret locations. The Terran Defense Council watched from their secure bunker. Commander Park Ji-won stood in a room filled with analysts and officials, all of them staring at screens showing the empty arena floor. We should intervene, someone said. Send ships, demand his release, and start a war. Another voice countered. The Vrelian Empire would crush us. We're not ready for that kind of conflict. So we just watch him die? Ji-won silenced them with a gesture. We watch, we learn, And we remember that one man is showing the galaxy what humans are capable of. Whatever happens today, it changes everything. In the holding area beneath the grand arena, Daehyun sat alone in a meditation chamber. They'd given him this courtesy, a quiet place to prepare. He wasn't restrained. There was nowhere to run, and everyone knew he wouldn't try. Dr. Lee Hyeri had been moved to a different section, but she'd left him a note the guards had allowed through. It said simply, "Thank you for teaching me. I hope to see you again." Daehyun folded the note carefully and tucked it into his clothing. He closed his eyes and controlled his breathing, the way he'd been taught so many years ago in a facility that no longer existed by instructors whose names he'd been ordered to forget. The door opened. A guard stood there, a different one than usual. This was a ceremonial guard in ornate armor. "It's time," Daehyun stood. They'd given him simple arena clothing, flexible and lightweight. No weapons, no armor, just cloth that wouldn't restrict movement. The walk to the arena felt longer than usual. The tunnel sloped upward, and he could hear the crowd even through the thick stone walls. The sound was like an ocean, waves of noise rising and falling. He emerged into sunlight. The grand arena was open to the sky, and the red sun of this world cast everything in shades of orange and crimson. Sand covered the floor, but this sand was clean, untouched by previous matches. The arena floor was empty except for a few scattered stone formations, natural outcroppings that had been incorporated into the design centuries ago. The crowd roared when they saw him. Some cheered. Many booed. Arguments broke out in the stands. His presence had divided the collective in ways no one had anticipated. The announcer's voice echoed across the arena, amplified by technology to reach every ear. "Citizens of the collective, today we witness history. The human fighter known as the Silent One faces his ultimate challenge." Daehyun walked to the center of the arena. He turned slowly, looking at the faces in the crowd. So many species, so many different forms of life, all gathered to watch him fight. The gate on the opposite side opened. What emerged made the crowd's noise double in volume. Admiral Vorn was massive, standing 12 feet tall in his ceremonial battle armor. The armor was black and red, covered in symbols representing his 300 years of victories. His face was partially visible through the helmet, showing features that were sharp and predatory. His species, the Kronar, had evolved as apex predators on a harsh world. He carried a weapon that was both ancient and deadly, a traditional Kronar warblade that extended from his arm like a natural extension of his body. The blade had been enhanced with modern technology, able to cut through almost any material. Vorn walked toward the center of the arena, each step shaking the ground slightly. He stopped 20 feet from Daehyun and looked down at the human. When he spoke, his voice was amplified so everyone could hear. "Human, you have impressed many with your victories. You've shown skill and determination. But today you face the reality of your species' place in this galaxy. You are lesser. I am greater. This is the natural order." Daehyun looked up at the Admiral. His expression was calm, peaceful even. "I don't believe in natural orders, Admiral. I believe everything living deserves respect. Then I will teach you otherwise." Vorn raised his blade. "You may arm yourself if you wish." "I will allow this courtesy." Daehyun shook his head. "No weapons. If I'm going to do this, I'll do it as I am." The crowd erupted in mixed reactions. Some saw this as foolish pride. Others recognized it as a statement of incredible confidence or perhaps acceptance of death. The announcer's voice rang out. "Let the final battle begin." Vorn didn't charge. He advanced slowly, methodically, his blade held in a perfect guard position. He'd watched all of Daehyun's fights. He knew the human was fast, smart, tactical. He wouldn't make the mistakes the others had made. Daehyun circled, keeping his distance. He studied Vorn's movement, the way the armor articulated, the slight delay between thought and action that came from interfacing with mechanical enhancement. Vorn struck suddenly, his blade cutting through the air faster than most eyes could follow. Daehyun twisted away, but not quite fast enough. The blade edge caught his shoulder, cutting through cloth and skin. Blood flowed, bright red against the sand. The crowd roared. First blood to the Admiral. Vorn pressed forward, not giving Daehyun time to recover. His blade came in a series of strikes, each one perfectly placed, each one designed to kill or disable. Daehyun dodged and weaved, but he was being driven back toward the arena wall. Another strike caught him, this time across the ribs. More blood. Daehyun stumbled, and Vorn's next strike hit him full force. sending him flying backward into the wall. He hit hard and slid down, leaving a trail of blood on the stone. The crowd was screaming now, sensing victory. Vorn approached the fallen human, his blade ready for the killing blow. Daehyun looked up at him. His gentle eyes met Vorn's, and for the first time since the fight began, he spoke. "Is this what strength looks like to you? Killing someone weaker?" "This is nature," Vorn replied. "The strong survive. The weak perish." "No." Daehyun pushed himself to his feet, blood running down his side. "That's not nature. That's just cruelty with a philosophy attached." He moved then faster than he had before. All his previous fights had been controlled, measured, showing just enough skill to win. But now, with blood loss making time critical, with millions watching, he stopped holding back. Vorn barely tracked the movement. The human was suddenly inside his guard, too close for the blade to be effective. Daehyun's strikes targeted the joints in the armor, the weak points where flexibility was necessary. Each hit was precise, calculated to cause maximum impact. Vorn swung his blade in a wide arc, trying to catch the human even at the cost of precision. Daehyun ducked under it and rolled between the Admiral's legs, coming up behind him. He jumped, grabbing onto the back of Vorn's armor, and drove his fingers into the gap where helmet met chest plate. The Admiral roared and reached back, grabbing Daehyun and throwing him 20 feet across the arena. Daehyun hit the sand hard, rolled, and came up in a crouch. He was breathing heavily now, the blood loss taking its toll. Vorn charged. Daehyun ran at him, not away. At the last moment, he slid under the blade strike, sand flying, and grabbed one of the stone outcroppings. Using it as an anchor, he changed his direction instantly, coming at Vorn from an unexpected angle. This time his target was the knee joint, the same weakness he'd exploited in his first fight. But Vorn's armor was better, reinforced. The strike hurt but didn't disable. The fight continued for 20 minutes. Each exchange was brutal. Vorn's armor was dented and scratched. Daehyun was bleeding from multiple wounds. The sand beneath them was stained red, but something was changing. Vorn's movements were slowing, not from injury but from confusion. The human was learning too fast. Every technique Vorn used, the human adapted to, countered, improved upon. It was like fighting someone who could see the future. This was what Project Silence had created. Not just enhanced reflexes or pain tolerance, but accelerated tactical learning. Every second of combat made Daehyun better at combat. Vorn began to realize he was going to lose. The moment of realization was his undoing. His next strike came with desperation instead of precision. Daehyun saw the opening and took it. He stepped inside the strike again, but this time he didn't attack the armor. He attacked Vorn himself. His strikes targeted nerve clusters, pressure points, areas where even enhanced beings felt pain. Vorn's blade arm went numb. His leg buckled. His helmet's targeting system flickered and died from a precise strike to its processor. Daehyun grabbed the blade arm, planted his feet, and used Vorn's own weight against him. The Admiral fell, his armor making the impact thunder across the arena. Before he could rise, Daehyun was on top of him. He grabbed the Admiral's helmet with both hands and looked into his eyes. "Yield," Daehyun said quietly. The microphones caught it. The word echoed across the arena. Vorn tried to fight, but his enhanced systems were failing. The human strikes had been too precise, targeting the armor's weak points, the interface points where technology met biology. He couldn't move. He couldn't escape.